Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. I'm Andeea, a licensed addiction counselor, and along with my co-host, Laura Kissmann, a quantum nutritionist, we will be inviting expert scientists, clinicians, survivors, and thrivers to distill their pearls of wisdom attained from applying quantum biology to their fields of research and everyday lives. Our goal is to bring you easy to understand principles and practices about the study of light, water, and magnetism so you can take your health into your own hands. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. We have a very special guest for you today. His name is Robert Gourlay. He is an Australian researcher who has worked in the research arena of water structuring for over 30 years. Since 1992, he has specialized in biological research, water structuring science, groundwater mapping, bore location, and also resource assessment and management. And since 2000, his innovations in water structure science have pioneered the research and development of the Andeea water devices. I'm going to show you one in a second. If you're watching here on YouTube, you will see it on camera. I'll do my best to describe it. Andeea stands for energizing and activating. And his cutting edge technology, this restores a permanent negative charge into the water. And this is the water that is in nature. This is what we want to do to our water. We want to replicate the water that is happening in nature. So this is a pretty amazing device. And these devices really do hold the key to water and food security. And that is a really bold statement. And we hope to uncover for you the reasons why in this interview. And it will literally free you from having to filter your water and buy filters for the rest of your life. One of the things that Robert said after we stopped recording was one of the number one comments and feedback he gets is that people's brain fog goes away. For those of you who are listening, whether you're in recovery from addiction or you just are living this modern world and you have brain fog, this is something that you do not want to miss. So I'm going to show you really briefly the device. So this is the portable Andeea. This is the Apollo Chrome device that I have. And what you do is you fill it. I fill it about here with water. I have noticed if I fill it higher than that, I have a hard time getting it to vortex. And the way you get it to vortex is you twirl it counterclockwise and then put it this way, and the water vortexes into this container. Now, another really cool thing is I absolutely love the company Blue Bottle Love, and they have partnered with Andeea and have basically taken this contraption and put their beautiful blue glass bottles on either side of the gold device. So the gold Apollo. So do check that out. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for both of them. And if you use the Andeea code, you do get 10% off. I also have the home device on my house now, and I absolutely am loving it. And I am just so excited for you to listen to what Robert has to say today. It has definitely taught me and Laura so much, and we're so excited. Let's jump into the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. Today we have Robert Gourlay with us. And Robert, you have been in this industry for over 30 years, and I would love for you just to start by sharing a little bit about yourself, your story, and how you came about to be researching the structure of water.
Well, thank you for the invitation. My life actually as a child, was around water. I actually grew up just 5 kilometres south of where I am living at the moment on a farm, and I grew up on a very pristine river, the Mongalo River. So I was swimming in that river, I was fishing in it, rafting, and not far from us was a pristine waterfall as well. So I was always around water as a child, and I think I had this affinity for it, but also with the natural world. So it wasn't until I went to university and studied hydrology and biology, ecology, those sorts of ecology type subjects that I started to take a fascination with water. And reading a book by Schauberger, Victor Schauberger, an Austrian scientist. And there was one thing that really caught my attention, and that was he described that when the Danube and the Rhine were straightened, along with other river systems in Germany, the voltage of that water or its polarity changed from negative to positive. And as a result of that, the water had lost its, what he described as insulation, or its capacity to hold charge. And as a result of the change in polarity, that water actually dropped in level by about 10 meters in places, was carving out the bottoms of the rivers. So there was a dramatic change, and he described this as a change in the magnetic levitation of the water. So these were things that, of course, you're never taught at university when you study water. And it was an insight to me. And so I had an inkling at that point that there was a big difference between a pristine natural stream that I grew up on as a child, and the way that water systems were changing globally. Then I guess the next thing was I met Professor Korotkov at University of St. Petersburg, met him in the UK, and he was also an expert in the structure or the energy of water. So I had a week with him to go through a lot of these questions that I had. But at the end of it, he just gave me a challenge, and because he was describing to me how, when we die as humans, the energy leaves our body, and at 60 hours, it's all finished. I said, well, what happens to water and fruit and vegetables? Of course, they're living things too. We could describe them as living things. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, go away and find out for yourself. Well, I did. And 2 years later, I had a device where I could measure the energy coming out of water. And I think, this was a major breakthrough, because at that stage, there was no instrument to measure the energy of water. So it was always assumed, and, this is what I was taught at university, that water had just had a neutral polarity. It wasn't either negative or positive. So I did find this out. And because I was close to this river I grew up on, it was on a voltmeter, it was recording a negative charge. And then we looked at fruit and veggies. So I took an apple off the tree on my property, and at 60 hours, everything went zip. So I knew then that the water of this food was changing polarity. And so it was fruit and vegetables were doing this. So that got me thinking about, well, how do we actually get the negative charge back into it? This principle, which comes out in the first law of thermodynamics, which says you can't destroy matter, you can't destroy energy, you can only change it or transform it to another form. So everything that's existed, like water, can't be destroyed, and energy, once it's created, it can't be destroyed. So, and this is basically the principle of reversibility. So if you can make something, let's say like a drug, out of elements, theoretically, you can reverse it back to its elemental form. And I think this is what water can do. So eventually I got to the point of being able to measure the negative charge in water. And I found that by 2012, I'd worked out and I achieved a device to put a permanent negative charge in the water. And I think I was the first in the world to do this, because no one else has made this claim. So I have a device that will put a permanent negative charge back into water. So, the question is, why do you want to do this? Well, the fact is, we know from other scientists, and mainly American scientists, besides Korotkov, a Russian scientist, that our cells operate at their full potential with a negative charge. So people who get diseases, whether they be physical or mental, have actually just gone to flat battery. So the question is, well, how do you maintain the cells at a high negative charge, which is what we'd call syntropy, whereas if you move the other way towards positive charge of your cell, it's a condition we call entropy or decay, described in the second law of thermodynamics. So having achieved the negative charge in water, then it was a process then of doing experimental work to find out, what the effect of this was on plants, animals, humans. Did it actually improve health, of the plant or the animal or human? And so that's what I've been doing for the last, well, 12 years, 13 years, I guess, is finding out just what the effect is of putting a permanent negative charge into water.
Oh, wow. So right away, I know my mind goes to filtering. So
Mm,
because I know you've talked about how different systems like distillers, reverse osmosis, also non-native EMFs and microwaves and things like that affect water and make it positive. And just so many of us are out there spending like I spend every 3 months on filters for my filter, right? So what do you say to people who filter their water? Like this is so mind-blowing, and it is going to take, I think, a belief system shift. It did for me anyway, because I always thought that I had to remove everything. What you're telling us is that it can be changed. We don't have to do that. So what do you say to that?
yes. Look, there's been a lot of conditioning, I think, in the messaging in education. And, we don't really have to go there because, I think the education system changed dramatically, where they removed this in education, this ability to think for yourself or think outside the square and just get a skill to do a job.
Mm,
So, so as a result of that, I think that people listen to the messaging, whether it comes from politicians or whether it comes from big corporations or from professors at university or from your school teachers, that there's messaging there. So, but when you look at this, I mean, you ask anyone, were you ever taught about water at
mm,
school or at university, about actually what water is? And we actually start our life in a womb in water, and we spend 9 months there in water.
mm,
And if you look at our body, we're 99.9% of the molecules in our body are water molecules. We're over 70% water. The human body is an amazing filter detox system. That's why we're designed with a lung, a liver that processes about 16 litres of blood, and blood is 82% water, every minute to clean it. And we have kidneys. We actually have a perfectly designed filter detox system. But the question always is that I'm asked, well, what about all the chemicals that are in water? And there's no doubt that the water that I drank as a child is vastly different from the water that comes out of a tap in an urban area these days, which is full of chemicals.
mhm,
So industry has messaged that to make water pure, we have to put chemicals into water, like chlorination, fluoridation, and then alum. They want to change the pH. So the concentration of the messaging is about the chemistry of water. No one was talking about the energy of water, although it has been a conversation since about 1920 amongst Russian scientists and other scientists that I know, and we're actually meeting in Lisbon in Portugal, in October, and there's probably only about 60 of us globally who actually study the energy of water. So you're right. To make a shift, we need about a 180-degree turn in our thinking about actually what is water. And I think we need to have a conversation about the philosophy of water. I write a lot about this in my writing, that we've lost, science has lost this context of philosophy and asking the question to get knowledge or understanding. What is water? And it's important in our life. We've got to drink it. We've got to wash with it, wash our clothes. We're using water all day long without actually thinking what it is.
right.
So I guess the answer to your question is that we really don't need filters, because what I found was you just apply the laws of physics here, the first law of thermodynamics, and we know from other science that water in a pristine stream is self-cleaning. So if you can restore water back to its natural state with a negative charge, it is self-cleaning. That is, and I know from experimental work, we've put massive amounts of E. coli, one of the pathogenic microbes, in one end and put it through our device, and laboratories could not detect any at the other end. It was doing exactly what water does in nature. It was just they disappeared. Now I don't know what's happened. They either changed form or something, or they were just broken up into fragments where they couldn't observe them. And so chemicals also can be reversed back to their elemental form. So if you take fluoridation, it is basically made up of fluoride, which doesn't exist in nature, just basically there is fluorine, and silica and sodium. Now, in that form, it's toxic, but theoretically, you can, and this is what a river system would do, is just break the bonds between those three elements. So fluoride goes back to fluorine, and you have silica and sodium in the water. Now,
Oh, that's so cool.
And your body can use fluorine, it can use silica, and it can use sodium, and they're actually important as part of the biology of our body. So the answer, I just tell people, you really don't need a filter. All you need to do is change the energy of the water and let your body do the rest. I mean, ideally, you would select the best water, a really good spring water. And I'm fortunate on my property, I've got beautiful, pristine water. I don't have to take it from a river because I've got groundwater bores that are highly mineralized. Now,
Nice.
we know in nature that water is just hungry for negative charge and it's hungry for minerals. So why would you want a filter system that removes all the minerals? And we know from experimental work, as soon as you start removing the minerals from water, like you'd get in some systems like reverse osmosis or distilling or desalination, the negative charge turns to positive as soon as you do that. And this is sort of anti-life. Cells don't work this way. They just treat this water now as toxic.
Yeah. Now I saw also what I thought was just mind blowing. I think it was Professor Kordakoff had said that we use 50% of our energy in our body just moving things like water that we drink that's positive into a negative charge. Like our body has to correct that. And I mean, when I thought about that, I was like, oh, that's just such a waste that we're putting in this dead water, basically. And then we're also we're all consuming these things. We're buying the system, we're buying the filters all the time. We're buying minerals to put in the water and all sorts of other things to structure it and do things to it to pretty much kill it and then bring it back to life when we could just use your beautiful
Yes,
system.
right. I mean, we have a mentality about killing things, and
Uh,
we've got to kill pathogens in our gut by taking an antibiotic, or
Yep.
or we've got to put things in the water to kill things.
The war
we
on
don't
cancer example.
Yes, nature doesn't work this way. I mean, big pharma and big chemical and big water do work this way because obviously it makes money, but
Right.
nature doesn't work this way. So this is why I say we need to bring some philosophy back into this and start to take water back to its natural state. I mean, it's only been in the last 100 years that we've basically gone off in a different path, which is almost anti-life in the way that we treat water. But Korokov is absolutely right. As soon as we consume positive charge, which will come in by way of water, so you can say all urban or municipal water has a positive charge. That's because they've set up standards, that make it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we bring in positive charge in food. So any food that is 60 hours after harvest has got the water in it now turned to positive charge. So when you consume this water and this food all day long, Rockoff is saying that it takes 50% of your energy every day to convert that positive charge to negative charge. So you're literally burning up your energy unnecessarily. You don't have to do this. And I think this is where people are winding their bodies down. And this is why we have both physical and mental issues, which are escalating. They're not getting better, getting worse. The rates are increasing all the time. And that's because people are running their body, which is an electromagnetic system. It's not a chemical system. So as soon as we get our mind around that we're just energy, we're just a bundle of energy, and you can be either full battery or flat battery, and you have choices. And
Yes.
your choices are based on your knowledge or understanding of how we as humans should work in nature or work with nature. Now, as I said earlier, we're not taught this at school, probably it's probably deliberate. So, I got my education by traveling the world and listening to other scientists and talking about this and thinking, well, God, most of the stuff I was taught at university is just useless. In fact, everything I was taught at university about magnetism turned out to be totally useless. I had to turn that around completely. So I think, we're rather fortunate in this world we live in that, here we are, we're tens of thousands of kilometers apart from each other, but we can have a conversation and share it with other people. And I mean, as a child, I grew up in an era where there were no computers. I mean, I had to go to the library to find something, but now we can share. So there's a great opportunity now to build this knowledge and have this conversation, amongst the community, because eventually the community will make decisions about their life and what they can do with their life. They know that the water coming through their tap is dead. I mean, scientists were talking about living water and dead water decades ago. They knew it, but they couldn't actually define what it was. They knew that one was water. Yeah. And this has been the dilemma, and this is what I found when I started traveling, that no one could really give me a definitive answer. And we had an inkling about the charge in the water, and Professor Pollock, University of Washington in Seattle, he defined this at the cellular level, but no one was looking at bulk water. The water that we drink or we shower in or whatever. And now the other thing Kropotov told me was interesting. He said, when you shower in this water, and that's why you need to have a unit on your house. So the water you shower in, because water running over your body, like being in the ocean or lying in a pristine stream, it will pull positive charge out of your body and put negative charge in. It's the same effect as grounding. If you walk barefooted on the ground or go and hug a tree, you will take in or entrain to your body the negative charge from the natural world, and you will release positive charge from your body. So showering, he told me, was far better than lying in a bath, because you needed to have water running over your body to get this maximum effect.
Yeah.
But he also said that even washing your clothes in this water. So even the clothing that you wear that's close to your skin, if it's got a negative charge on it, you've washed it. You're also entraining negative charge this way. So there are a lot of advantages in changing our thinking about the charge in water and what it's doing to our body.
Oh, man. Yes.
We're grounding ourselves in negative charge.
Yeah. This is just really speaks, well, so I'm so happy you're on here because we are going to share this with as many people as possible, but it really speaks to, we have to obey Mother Nature. We can't go against Mother Nature. Like, she set some rules and all we have to do is follow them, and we'll be thriving in our human bodies, in these vessels that we're on this earth with. I think this is a good segue into just explaining to some people who are really new to this topic. Just in school, the thing we are taught is about the phases of water, but usually we're only taught about the 3 phases of water. Do you want to just explain a little bit about the phases for people?
Yes, well, most people will know that there are 3 phases that we're taught in school. There's a gaseous phase, which is like a vapor, water in a vapor form, which we just can't see, but we're surrounded by it, if we walk outside. We've got humidity, so it can be the more dense than, I guess, than, if you're in the desert, you've got less. And then there's a liquid phase. We know liquid because it's the water that we drink and we swim in and we wash our clothes in and we're showering. Then there's the solid phase, which is ice. So and others before him, guys like Ling and others, found that in our body, it was a more viscous water. It was like in a gel form. So, and Pollock then brought in the 4th phase of water, that is the gel form in our body. So in our body, the only H2O or liquid water is actually in your blood, which is 83% water. So when you cut yourself, what comes out is just blood because it's H2O. But the other gel water, it's not going to flow out. So if a surgeon sticks a knife into you, all this water you've got in your body, which could be, 70% by weight of your weight, it doesn't flow out and it can't because it's in this gel form. So this gel form is a bit like egg white, and it has what Pollock describes as exclusion zone. It has this capacity to regulate what comes in and out of a cell. So, and this is a very important thing. Now, I gave a presentation at a conference in San Diego back in early April, where and Pollock was there, and I gave the presentation describing all the results I got over in my research since 2012, once I had structured or negative charge water. And he came up to me after, he said, "You've just created exclusion zone water or RZ water, and the world needs to know about this." But, in nature, water in these pristine streams is exclusion zone water. It's not exclusive to the cells in your body. And this again gets back to why water in a pristine stream is self-cleaning. It can exclude. It can actually transform or probably even transmutate. This is the amazing consciousness or intelligence of water. And if you've ever had a look at the work of Veda Austin, a New Zealand woman, the work that she's done, imitating.
We love her.
Yes, and the work of. Yes, so we know that water is very aware. It will entrain information. So part of the consciousness of water is the ability to receive, store, and transmit information. Now, this is a form of intelligence, and again, because we're not taught this at school, we don't have this appreciation of the value of water and to put a value on water, for our own health. So this negative charge along with the exclusion zone capacity is just really the tip of the iceberg of what water can do. Now, if we go back to what Schauberger said, it also has this magnetic levitation. And I know this from experiments. So one you've probably seen is experiment that I do with water. So on what would be your left-hand side, I suppose, is water that's in this one here. It's clear, and that's structured water. And this one here is water from my local town. So the blueberries in there were put in there in 2016.
Wow.
The structured water is crystal clear. So we've now proven that structured water is an antioxidant in your body. So you won't oxidize. So if you drink structured water, you won't form these free radicals or what we call reactive oxygen species. But if you drink normal town water, which is this one, you will oxidize. So there's an example. This experiment was done in 2016, and today, and the water levels have dropped. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in there, the water levels have dropped. So the one that was not, where we didn't put the negative charge into it, it has dropped. Just like Schauberger said, back in the 1930s, that lost its magnetic levitation. So now we've got this property of water we can observe, and the water in your body has a magnetic levitation or anti-gravity effect. So now we've got some proof. But we're only just discovering just how clever water is and why we need to appreciate the energy of water and start to get some movement going here. Because if we could convert all urban treatment systems just to put a negative charge into the water, the health bill of any nation would drop dramatically.
Yeah.
We'd have some healthy people.
Yes. Now, would you say that this magical water, like water knowing, we don't have to tell it what to do and it just knows what to do, would you say this gives us hope in regards to like the forever chemicals and the microplastics that are in our oceans and whatnot? Like it would be self-cleaning? It would be able to do it? Maybe it is doing it?
Yeah, and I've been talking to some people in America who want to clean up lake systems and so forth.
Yeah.
And you could do this just by returning the negative charge to a lake, but you can do this, in ponds. I've got ponds around my house that we've built, and the ones that have the negative charge in them, and I have ones with charge and without charge. Of course, I run workshops here and I show people the differences.
Oh,
But the
sure.
one with the charge, the water is absolutely crystal clear, absolutely crystal clear. And the one that doesn't have the charge in it is not crystal clear. So it's pretty obvious, and the one that is crystal clear, we can put fish in there and they just thrive, whereas life in the others is not thriving, with plants and so forth. So we've just got to let water do what water can do. It's clever,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't assume that humans are more clever than water, because we're not. We've actually made some pretty disastrous decisions about how we should treat water, and so if we get a shift in understanding, we might have an entirely different approach to the way that we deal with water.
Yeah, definitely. So, speaking to the food piece, so, I actually ferment some of my food, and the reason I got a reverse osmosis system was because I was under the understanding that the microbes or whatnot would not be able to form in the food because of the chemicals in the water. So I had to use reverse osmosis. Have you done any fermentation with your water? Have you been able to not only bring a negative charge to food, but have you ever done any fermenting? Just curious.
Yes, well, I have a branch of my business, which is a well-being business, and I actually make around 70 different well-being products, and a lot of those are fermented. I've been fermenting and making probiotics for humans and animals for well over 20 odd years or more. So yes, I do have experience, and all the products I make that are liquid are made with structured water. You do get much better fermentation in structured water, and the preserving ability is amazing. I mean, plant food will stay almost pristine when you put it into structured water if you're going to preserve it. What the difference is this permanent negative charge. Now, I was told a long time ago that it would be impossible to put a permanent negative charge into water. It would just disappear within the 60 hours. Well, it didn't take me too long to realize that I got to a point that, see, when you structure water, it not only has a negative charge, but the water turns blue, a light blue color. And we were observing this water just stayed a light blue color.
Oh, wow.
Now, the other thing is, I should say that there are natural springs, and you've got them in California and Mexico, probably, all over America, but we also have them in Australia and in New Zealand, Portugal, places like that. Now, people in the past called these waters sacred or holy waters.
Mm-hmm.
They had some inkling that when they drank this water or used it, it had some healing effect. Now, I'm very fortunate on my property. I've actually got one of these springs, and it's high in magnesium bicarbonate, and it comes out of the ground with a permanent negative charge on it. So I already know that nature knows how to create water with a permanent negative charge, even when it's still. And the magnesium bicarbonate has massive health benefits in it. So we already know that nature can create water with a permanent negative charge, and it's in these springs. And we know then also if water doesn't come out with a permanent negative charge, or it reverts to a positive charge if you take it out of a river, and you put the permanent negative charge into it, it stays blue, exactly the same as these, holy waters or sacred waters. So we could say now that if you put one of my devices on your house, you can create your own sacred water or holy water.
Yes. Okay. That leads me to my next question for you. So I've heard you speak about like the water we start with. So if most people listening here are probably going to be starting with some kind of a filtered water that will be positively charged.
Yeah.
A regular consumer is not going to have a testing device to know if their water is negatively charged. Would you say that and then we'll get into your device so you can talk about that. Would you say putting a home device then on the home And then also having like a device in the shower, like that would be beneficial because then you're taking that urban water and you're being able to kind of be assured that it'll be negative.
Well, yes, the only difference is that if you put it through reverse osmosis, it's going to turn to positive. So, and we've done this test many times. So one of my mates is actually a plumber, and he provided the water before the reverse osmosis with the need show and after the reverse osmosis, and it was positive. And we've done this a number of times. We know that reverse osmosis will reduce it to the negative charge by at least 70%. That's the minimum, but most of the time it goes to positive. So this is a consideration for people. So if they want to keep the reverse osmosis, they need to put one of my smaller devices, which is what I call the under sink or shower device, after the reverse osmosis to reverse it back. Because I just think reverse osmosis just reverses everything in your body. So you need to reverse it. You need the reversal of the reverse osmosis. So there's a number of choices that you have in life. And, I know that people make a major investment into filters and it costs them a lot of money thereafter, where you buy my device, you've got it for life. You can will it to your grandchildren.
Yeah, it's an heirloom.
There's no maintenance required. So I don't make my money out of maintenance. I make it out of just giving something to someone for their well-being, and they've got it for life.
Yeah.
So, but look, there are decisions to be made, and I get emails every day, and either I'm answering it or my staff are answering these questions. But we get the same question nearly all the time: what do I do with my filter? And because people have this belief that they've got to have a filter on to knock out the PFOS and PFAS, all these things that are now in the water. And of course, in America too, you've got the other added problem where they're now recycling sewage water. And we know in the UK, they do this. They recycle, waste water back to drinking water.
So we have drugs, right?
Yes, and you've got hormones, you've got drugs, you've got all the medications are in there. So everything in nature that has a physical form, like a drug, has also an energy form. So you might remove the physical or part of it. You can't remove it 100%, but you haven't removed the energy form of the medication or the hormone or whatever. But water can. Water in its most natural state can do this.
So
it goes back to the first law of thermodynamics. You can't destroy the matter, you can't destroy the energy, but you can transform it or change it to another form.
Yes. Now, so then would you say it's just better for people to just ditch the filter, if you will, and put the device on the home, like you using the tap? Like you wouldn't need all of it. It's actually way more simple than we make it out to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes simple doesn't wash with, we think, we want to think in terms of more complexities these days. And that actually, when it gets back to nature, it's actually very simple. It's a bit like our body. We have a highly complex body that's processing probably 1 billion pieces of information every second. And all we have to do is to feed it with the electrons that it needs to maintain negative charge. I mean, we have a simple job to do, is put the right sort of water in and the right sort of food in and create the right environment around our body. And guess what? We stay fully charged by doing that.
Robert, I have a question because I live in the country. I actually live in Canada, and we're on a well, and we use a water softener. So it's somewhere in the water softener, it's filtering, I assume, and somehow it's because there's a lot of iron and sulfur. You can taste the sulfur, like when we haven't put our bags of salt in. What would you recommend in that situation?
Well, we do know we have these issues in Australia too, and as they do in New Zealand, particularly with sulfur. But in Australia, we have what's called hard water, which is high in calcium,
right?
Particularly. Now, it's this calcite which sticks to pipes. And by the way, it'll stick to the pipes in your body too, called arteries and veins. and so calcite is what clogs people up. And this is why we get issues to do with blockages. And I should say, there is a mineral that removes calcium out of your blood and puts it into your bones where it should be. It's called boron.
Right.
Yep.
Now, it's a big part of our well-being business. But when you put hard water or water that's high in calcium through my device, it converts the calcite into another form of calcium carbonate called aragonite. Now, it's worth looking at the crystalline structure of calcite and the crystalline structure of aragonite, and you'll see they're entirely different. But I can tell you, aragonite cannot stick to your pipes. So in your body, it just flushes the aragonite out. It's converted the calcite into aragonite and just flushes it out through your kidneys. Now, on a farm, it will float on the top of your tank, just float there. So again, you can't destroy the matter. You can't make something disappear. Magic doesn't happen in nature. Things are recycled. Matter is created and energy, and it's just recycled back. So we can change it according to this first law of thermodynamics, and that's what the device does. We're just replicating what nature does, and nature can do this because water in a pristine stream is encased in the Earth's magnetism, and it's getting the resonant energy of the Earth's magnetism, and it's getting magnetism from light, electromagnetic magnetism of light. So these factors, and of course in nature, water is full of minerals and is full of microbes. This is what natural water is. But it is a big issue with the minerals in the water, and often it's because the well or the groundwater bore is not deep enough to get into the freshwater system. I know this because I've spent well over 30 odd years mapping and siting groundwater bores, and the deeper you go, the more pristine the water is. It's fresher and it's as good as you'd find in a pristine river. That's another issue about, how do you get this ground? There's a whole new conversation we can have about this, but there's a huge amounts of fresh water in the earth. And I've written about this. The amount of water tied up in the crust as fresh water is actually 3 times greater than the amount of water in the ocean. We don't have an issue to do with fresh water. But yes, this device, and I can actually provide information if you want to pursue this further, and if you just email me, I'll provide you with some evidence of what it does. But my device will turn hard water into soft water. So
that's
you will
amazing.
taste the difference. You actually will taste the difference. But you can't make something disappear. So if it's in the water, it's going to come out in some form, but it'll be changed energetically. And the reason we have this device is, the main reason is to deliver to your cells a negative charge to sustain them at the negative 50 millivolt where they should be. The only organ in your body that operates at a higher negative millivolt charge is your heart. And this is why the heart never gets cancer, because cancer will never attack the organ or system of highest negative charge. So it's logical, or you can deduce from that if you maintain your cells at a high negative charge, well, you're not going to get a disease.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to flat back.
All right. So I want to talk about your devices, but I know that these questions, I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions that I think people might be thinking. And that is, well, what if I boil my negatively charged water? Or what if I freeze my negatively charged water? Will it keep the charge?
It will, indefinitely, yes. So we've done this experiment many times, and I've been showering structured water, for 12 years now, and you do know the difference. When you shower in this water, it is just feels different. Your hair feels different. Everything else just feels different from. So boiling the water does not affect the negative charge. And I produce ice blocks from this water because they go in my whiskey. So I know that, it maintains the charge. We know that. So you don't have to worry about boiling the water or freezing it. It will not lose the charge. The only time we know that it loses charge is if you put it in a microwave oven, you'll basically kill it, or reverse osmosis. There may be other ways, but they're the only two that we know at the moment.
What
Okay.
about distilling? Would distilling it? They would do it too, right?
No, we've tried that also.
And it stays
It
negative?
doesn't, stays negative. So we actually do distillation on our property. So
Okay.
we know, and there are distillers and others, using it in this form, like in fermentation, and reporting back that the taste and everything has changed dramatically because of the negative charge in it.
Okay. Okay. So yes, this is a great segue into Utah, speaking to your amazing products here and your devices. So how would, there's just so many things out there in regards to vortexers, water structures, and things like that. How would a consumer know? There's also devices that, they put electricity in the water to create ionized alkaline water, for example. How would a person know that your device kind of beats all those?
Well, yes, there are many types of water on the market, which I'd put down to 100% marketing and 0% science. The real test is, first of all, does this water has been proven to hold a negative charge permanently? That's the first test. But you can do simple tests. You can, for example, take water out of my device and put it into a container, at least 5 litres, where there's no light coming in. And if you look down, you'll see that it's blue, a light blue colour. So there's basic tests you can do. Or you can do, my blueberry, and
Yep.
we've got people all over the globe now doing the blueberry test and reporting the results back to me. So you don't actually have to have a voltmeter system, and it's a bit complicated unless you really know what you're doing with voltmeters, and you have to amplify the signal using what's called a U current device. Unless you know what you're doing, it's not easy to measure the voltage in water, but there's other tests that we normally advise people to do to check that it's got its voltage. And I invite clients to send the water to me, where my laboratory can then test the negative charge, and we provide that service free of charge, and we'll photograph it or video it and show them that it's got a negative charge. But all our devices are tested. Every inline device that we sell has been tested to produce a negative charge, because our devices are in Australia are industry certified. That is, and we are audited every 12 months. And this audit is very thorough to make sure that all the quality control and what we say, we're actually producing. So we have to show the auditors that when the water goes through our device, it's producing a negative charge on the meter. So I think people can be assured that there's a high level of quality control, and if they buy a device from us, it will produce the negative charge. But there are simple tests they can do to check, and just shower in it and go through that experience, or drink it and go through that experience.
Yes,
Robert, Robert, your device, it's called MEA or MIA, or what do you call it?
Well, we only call it MEA because initially we described it as a process of magnetic, energizing, and activating water. That's how MEA came about.
Okay.
And it sort of stuck, but it's a water re-energizer. So we're actually using it to re-energize water, to change the energy of water back to its natural state. It's simply, that's all we're doing. But when you take it back to its natural state, it has these, water in that state has these amazing capacities, of which we're only just discovering or being able to, in science, either visually show people, but often you've got to show a set of numbers as well, because this is the way that science works. Unless you can produce some numbers. So, for example, in plants, we know when we grow plants with this water, it energizes the microbes in the soil. That energy then is transferred to the plant. The plant will increase photosynthesis. We know that plants watered with negative charge water will increase the uptake of nutrients between 2 and 4-fold.
That's amazing.
So if you think about what this would do for the planet in terms of food production, because what the chemical industry has done is to reduce the minerals in plants. So, for example, zinc in most plants these days, because of chemical farming, is reduced between 40 and 60%. And you need zinc for your immune system, for your hormone system. We're seeing massive reductions in the mineral availability from plants. And it's all due to chemical farming. And we've just wound down the microbes and the energy of the soil. Now, a plant is intelligent. It can't maximize photosynthesis if the energy isn't in the soil to counter it, to provide the minerals back to it. So we've broken the energy cycle between the plant and the soil through chemical farming. So what we do on our property here is we only do biological food production.
Nice.
So chemical, and we have products that we sell to farmers and to gardeners, for the microbes and along with the device. So on your veggie garden, if you've got a device and you've got some biology to put in, you can grow superfood, nutrient dense food.
Yeah.
You answered the question I had on, how does this claim that this could help food security? I think you just basically answered that beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Robert, we have kind of a signature question we always end with.
Yeah.
And it is, what does quantum healthy mean to you?
Quantum healthy.
Yes.
Well, I think if we probably all had a better understanding of quantum and quantum physics, and water, in a manner of speaking, is a quantum entity because of its intelligence and its capacity to entrain, the subtle energies of the universe and of nature, to entrain them. And it'll only do that if it's got a negative charge. I mean, all water will entrain signatures, and when it's got a positive charge, it will entrain everything, including all the bad stuff. So it's only when it's got a negative charge, it will exclude the bad stuff. Yeah. So I think, introducing quantum to this whole thing about water is absolutely critical, because if the professors at university were quantum physicists or biologists teaching water, we'd be much better off, because at the moment it's taught by chemists and engineers, and we know which way they're going with the water. So getting back to your question, there is a quantum aspect about water, and something that we're exploring, and this is a new field to me, because I was never really, while I did physics and chemistry, I never really got into quantum, so I've had to teach myself a lot about this. But we are a quantum body, which I described earlier, when we have this capacity to process 1 billion pieces of information every second. And I'm sure water can do that too. So, but it's all about energy. I mean, we are an energy body of entraining subtle energy and releasing subtle energies. And the only reason we can have an emotional experience, say like love, is that we exchange energies.
Yeah.
And water is a big part of this. Without water in our body, we would not be able to do this. We wouldn't even have an aura. We wouldn't emit energy without water. So what I say, and the businesses that we are in what we often call alternative medicine. It's not alternative. It's been around ever since humans have been around. It's the natural medicine, or the real thing. Mm-hmm. But I think we need to, in this industry, have an understanding and show people that if they increase the negative charge of their body, whether it's drinking this water or cooking their food in this water, or just rinsing it off, grounding themselves in nature, to get this negative charge, or even listening to frequencies that deliver this, like 432 hertz music, or just engaging in the emotions of love, joy, and hope, we can restore the negative charge to our body. And that's when we release disease or conditions, and it doesn't matter what that condition is, whether it's, physical or mental, because we hold emotions in our organs, and they get trapped there, and we need to find ways to release them. But you have to start with the water. The water is so critical to your body and to the way your cells work, that if that's your starting point, then all the other things that we do in our businesses to help people will take effect, because you've got a base and you've got an energy system there that is enabling the body to function in the way that it's supposed to.
Andeea, I'm so glad you asked that question, because we just learned a ton from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I just heard you say that positive emotions have a negative charge, which is really
Yes.
amazing.
So I don't know why we got into this idea that of positive and negative and referring it to emotions, but yeah, a positive emotion actually carries a negative charge.
Yeah.
And again, this is where
Gosh.
we have to flip our thinking about, so if we experience any experience of love, joy, and hope is actually bringing negative charge to our body and helping us to release positive charge.
Oh,
We
I,
sort
I,
of know it intuitively. We know this intuitively. That's
right.
what it does.
I studied Dr. Robert Young and Dr. Jerry
Oh, yeah.
Tennant, who I know you also, his book Healing is Voltage. I did a whole workshop on it, and yeah, I know Dr. Robert Young used to say like negative emotions are, as he would say, they were acidic, and
Yes.
positive emotions were alkaline. But he would also put the two together, like acidic was positive and negative charge was the alkaline. So you're clarifying so much and bringing everything full circle back. It's so interesting.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that about positive and negative, or acidity and alkalinity, everything from our mouth to our anus is acidic. So I think we need to understand this is the way it works. The alkaline part of our body is really our fluid system, like our blood, and it becomes alkaline from consuming alkaline minerals. So we get this money from salt or bicarb. So a major part of in our wellness business is actually educating people about having an adequate amount of complex salt, and particularly bicarb. So that's why this water I've got on my property, which is high in magnesium bicarbonate, is so beneficial, because magnesium is actually activated in your body through bicarbonates. So if you can get it naturally, you know, it's better to do it that way. But there's, I think, a lot of confusion about acidity and alkalinity, messaging, as it is about water
Exactly.
as well.
Oh, Robert, this has been such a joy chatting with you. I want to give you a chance to share with people where they can find you, and maybe some of I'll include, of course, your websites and things in the show notes, but is there anything you want to add to just where people can find you?
I think the website, I think if they go to my .com website, there's information there. There's videos on how to use the bottle top device, and me talking about these devices. So it's probably a good starting point. Look, I do welcome people to ask questions. If they want to email me, they can just send it to either rob@meawater.com or info@meawater.com. I've got a whole range of papers, and as you know, I've got a PowerPoint that I can send out to them. So I'm happy to help people in improving their understanding of water and making decisions for themselves about water, because at the end of the day, we just have to switch the thinking on this 180 degrees. And the only way we'll do this is people getting a better understanding.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. I've been on your website. The videos are very helpful. And yeah, we'll end it there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Can I just say one little, I've
Go
been
ahead,
kind of
Laura.
crafting a thank you here for Robert. First of all, Robert, from both Andeea and I, we want to thank you for being our first guest that gave us homework. And, our aim is to grow as we talk to you, but it was wonderful to have the PowerPoint presentation and the different videos and podcasts. Actually, we've learned a ton in this journey and really hope to share that. And also really want to thank you for being an advocate for water, an advocate for the health. I think that this planet and its humans, animals, plants, the rivers, the lakes are all going to benefit, I think, from your work. And just thank you for being a researcher and for caring and embracing the consciousness of water and helping to teach that and share that. And lastly, just, I don't know about Andeea, but I have been writing notes like crazy, and there's been so many mind-blowing gems that we're going to be digesting for weeks on this. And I'm super excited to try out your unit as well. Andeea's already ordered it. I'm probably going on the website tomorrow, whether I have to borrow money to get it, but it just sounds so. I'm convinced. It just, what a fabulous interview. And it's just an honor, truly an honor to have you here.
But look, you make a very important point. We all have to be an advocate for water because water can't speak for itself. It's got a massive consciousness. And unless we are connected with it and get to appreciate and understand water, people will really never understand its true value and its importance in life. So we have to be an advocate of water and get the message out there to people of how important it is. And some of the myths around water and the way that messaging around water is conducted at the moment, we have to, I guess, counter that. To some extent, we have to be a little bit rebellious.
True enough. Speaking of rebellious, I'm rebelling a bit inside because I have a 3-hour workshop called Quantum Hydration, and I have to go back to the books and rewrite it now because of all this information. This was the paradigm shift that's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I went through that some years ago for me, and it's once you break through, you do see the light about water.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to end right there. Thank you so much, Robert, and everyone listening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. We hope you found some value in this information, and if you feel inspired, please share it and leave us a 5-star review. This will help us reach so many more people. If you want to connect with Laura, you can find her at laurakissmannwellness.com and Andeea at andeearay.com. Links are below in the show notes. Now, go find some sunlight and embrace your own quantum healthy.